public and our tenants who are joining us online, and also to welcome the board. Thanks for joining us, and thanks for taking time from your very busy schedule to join the Toronto Seniors Housing Corporation Board of Directors meeting. Today is April the 25th, 2024. My name is Farid Amin, and I have the privilege of chairing this committee. Before I go further, I just want to welcome Tom. Welcome back to the Toronto Seniors Housing Corporation. Appreciate you being back, and thanks for also for the work you did while at TSHC. So appreciate that, and thank you very much. So I'm just going to go through with the land acknowledgement before we start. The Toronto Seniors Housing Corporation acknowledges that we are on the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13, signed with the Mississaugas of the Credit, and the Williams Treaties, signed with multiple Mississaugas and Chippewa bands. And now for the African and Central acknowledgement, Toronto Seniors Housing Corporation acknowledges all treaty peoples, including those who came here as settlers, as migrants, either in this generation or in generations past. Those of us who came here involuntarily, particularly those brought to these lands as a result of the transatlantic slave trade and slavery. We pay tribute to those ancestors of African origin and descent. So once again, those of you who are just joining us, thanks for your presence, and welcome to the Toronto Seniors Housing Corporation Board of Directors meeting. I want to thank staff, the work that they always do in putting together the agenda and the supplementary material. As members would have observed, we've got a very weighty agenda, lots of important items on the docket, including a discussion of the annual general report, the auditor's report. There's some comments back also on the employee engagement survey and the results of the diversity, equity, and inclusion survey, amongst a number of other items, including a report back from the subcommittee meeting of the Quality and Tenant Engagement Committee. So I'll now request, if there are no objections, additions, deletions to agenda. The agenda was circulated. If there are no objections, can I ask that the public agenda as presented to the board be approved?
Warren moves, Mr. Chair.
Thanks, Warren. May I have a second?
Seconded, Linda.
Thank you, Linda. Moved by Warren, seconded by Linda. All in favor? Approved. We're going to move to item number 4. I'm going to ask, is there any declaration of conflict of interest? Hearing none. If something comes up during the course of the meeting, please identify the nature of the conflict and we will deal with it accordingly. Move on to item number 5. Are there any amendments to the minutes? This is the minutes, the board minutes of February 22nd, 2024. Minutes was circulated with the agenda. Are there any omissions, any corrections, any additions? Hearing none, be it resolved that the public session board minutes of February 22nd be approved. May I have a mover and a seconder? Thanks, Warren.
Mr. Chair.
Thanks, Warren. Thanks, Brenda. Moved by Warren, seconded by Brenda. All in favor? That is approved. We'll now move on to item number 6, approval of the closed session board minutes of February 22nd, 2024. Are there any amendments to the minutes? Any omissions, any corrections, any deletions? Hearing none, may someone move the following? Be it resolved that the closed session board minutes of February 22nd be approved.
So moved.
Thanks, Maureen. Moved by Maureen, seconded by Jim. All in favor? That is approved. Okay, we'll move on to item number 7. Matters arising. There was an action list that was provided with the agenda. I don't know, Tom, whether you or Grant or anyone else would like to speak to it. I think it's fairly self-explanatory. If there are questions from the board, we can also address those questions as well. One item in that outstanding list that was in progress, but the rest of it has been completed.
That's been completed.
It's Grant. Oh, yes, through the chair, just going to advise Maureen's card is now
Yes.
available for her.
Right, perfect.
Okay, are we all gonna get cards?
If you would like a card, Brenda, through the chair, we can
Sure.
arrange that.
Sure, I just think,
Yeah, I think I don't know if I need a motion to this effect, but I think it would probably be appropriate to issue cards to all the directors. That would be my recommendation.
We can take that as an action for each and follow up.
yeah, thank you.
Thanks, appreciate it. Thanks, Maureen, for bringing that up. I think it's a great idea. All righty, so we'll move to item number 8, CEO's report. Once again, Tom, welcome back. It's good to see you, and we're glad to have you back at the helm. And I'll hand it over to you.
Great, through the chair and to the board. It is so very good to be back. It just feels very comfortable to be back at Toronto Seniors. I would certainly just want to take this opportunity to thank Jo Bata for the time that she filled in, the leadership team, our board, the staff, and certainly the tenants for continuing on with the work and the important work of our organization. It was just this week, it was particularly a highlight for me getting back into the, there was 4 regional tenant meetings. I have been to 3, so great to get back, back in the buildings and meeting with some of the tenants, ones I know, new tenants in meeting, and once again getting grounded in the work of our corporation. And also next week, start my first the tenants connecting with the CEO, which used to be the kind of the CEO. The listening tour now is we're just kind of framing it as the tenants connecting with the CEO, and so starting 310 Dundas is my first building next week. So looking forward to that, and have had my first day back. There was a town hall with the staff, so really great to get orientated with that group, and already several meetings with the leadership team. So nicely kind of getting into my stride here, and just have to say, the staff have just been kind of so welcoming, and so that has felt very good. Just a bit about I think my time at Toronto Community Housing. I am truly appreciative of the chance to spend time there, and I think most of all it gave me a better understanding of Toronto Community Housing, but also what are some of the opportunities that are there for to lift up both of our organizations, and as well where are those pressure points. And so looking at 2024 and beyond. Better understanding when we look at what we need to do around the agreements, certainly further work in our budgets, what we want to see at both organizations, a chance to see tenant engagement at Toronto Community Housing, how it's evolving, I would say in a different way at Toronto Seniors, but I think important to how how our tenants want to work with us, and also just seeing how there's different supports within the buildings from a staffing perspective, and what are some of the advantages of those. And so I just, for me, that was a real, I think, very favorable to have that opportunity. Also, I got to go back to delve a bit in the world of revitalization and redevelopment. That I did a lot of that work at City Housing Hamilton, and so seeing how that was being done at Toronto Community Housing on the scale that they're doing it. So it was so interesting to get back into that space. And I have to say, one of the bigger initiatives that started when I was at Toronto Community Housing was around with the mayor's priority around the creation of 65,000 support rent supported units. So that really was an opportunity. The skills and knowledge that I'd had around affordable housing and models for building, and so looking then at Toronto community housing and the work with the city. So really, I quite enjoyed the start of that work. But let me tell you, there's a tough road ahead on that. Hopefully, those outcomes are achieved, but it will be no easy task to deliver on 65,000 homes. And also, I just think of note when I was there, I did have the opportunity. There was some work being done with the senior team with Diversity Pro, which is they do work in the space of EDI. And I had a chance, and right now I'm having a mentor who I'm working with around EDI, so continuing my learning, and I can talk more about that later in my review, but just wanted to mention that. So I just wanted to highlight some of those aspects of Toronto community in this session. But just saying, back to Toronto seniors, really so good to be back, and really incredible to see the work that has over that 8 months. The interim strategic directions, now strategic directions. I think the Community Connect Plus, from what I've been hearing from the tenants and the model, seeing how it's been operating, what it has achieved, I think is pretty incredible. Surveys being completed, the employee, the tenant, and the IDAA, all really very positive things. And I'll have, as I said, a chance to speak to that more in my review. And just my final comment around the opportunity at Toronto Community Housing, it's clear to me coming back that these organizations really are developing, I think, in a positive way, two separate cultures. And when I think about the tenants first strategy, like what was the vision of the city, the importance of having a separate corporation for seniors, when I look at things like what's happening around the work around language, training for our staff, how we're engaging with tenants, it does require, I think, in different ways of doing that, and we're seeing that evolve in the different in the two different, what I see as two very different cultures in the organizations. And so, that from my perspective, really thankful that I had that opportunity, and now really here back at Toronto Seniors, and we'll be moving things forward. And then just my Fareed, when we were doing the agenda review, had just asked about some around the federal government and the announcement, I guess their response and their budget announcements around our housing crisis, which we're experiencing in this country. And to what extent we'll see an impact on Toronto seniors. That budget, that announcement really was about how do they build housing faster. There was some focus around affordable housing, kind of breaking down barriers to allow the housing to be developed faster, whether it was incentives or changing how policies work at for example, at the municipal level. But overall, it was a multi-billion-dollar housing plan, that was announced to respond, and it included spending not only in the housing, but also recommendations around, as I said, policy changes, addressing affordability and encouraging new construction. That was big, and the estimate was to be built almost 3.9 million homes by 2031. Like truly aspirational, but the fact though that this is still, the focus is on housing in the crisis is a good thing. And at a high level, it was about building more homes. There was a section about making it easier to rent or own a home. And then also another section was around helping Canadians who can't afford a home. And I have a more extensive briefing note here that was done by Toronto Community Housing. So I would share this for sure with the board if you would like that. But just my two final comments as it related to this announcement and this area around making it easier to rent or own a home. There was information in the budget announcement around a tenant protection fund and a Canadian Renters Bill of Rights, but that really spoke to just how there's better protection for renters in the space of housing, and so that making it easier to rent your home was really some of the protections that could be put in for renters. And then the part around helping the area helping Canadians who can't afford a home. So this is where they were looking at, one of the areas was with I think could kind of impact us, is what they were talking about in the new rapid housing stream, where they're looking at affordable housing fund to build deeply affordable housing, supportive housing, and shelters for our most vulnerable. So I think that is some work where we, you know, we could see some positive aspect for seniors, but really there's not a lot in here that directly would impact you know, an organization like Toronto Seniors, but certainly glad to share the more in-depth briefing note with the board. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Tom.
Tom.
Sounds like you haven't missed a beat. So welcome back, and it's great to have you. And I'm very pleased that you're doing round two to connect with our tenants, and also you had an opportunity to do that town hall with staff. I mean, I think that's a good way to get back into the organization. I'm just going to open it up for any questions that the directors might have for Tom. Brenda, go ahead.
Hi. Can you hear
Hello.
me? Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Just 2 quick points. With my limited reading of the various announcements, Tom, it seems to me one area that might happen is more innovation, that people are going to have to partner together in different ways. So the traditional models are going to have to be modified. And I think this is where, whether it's ourselves as an organization or whether it's both parties, Toronto Community Housing and us, have to start maybe engaging, looking at co-op partnerships, you know, using whatever abilities and skills we have to share. Modular housing, which can be put up very quickly, 6 months, you can put it up. I did a little work on the modular housing with another housing group I was involved with, trying to find housing for the disabled, right? People with disabled adult children. And I know the modular housing can be put up quite quickly because we had contacts with people who were going to do that for us. So I think this is even though there may be nothing explicit for seniors, I think there's enough room to maneuver in the announcements, and whether it's the financing, whether it's a partnership building, that will need to be innovative, you know. And my second point is just if you are going to be redoing the tours again, if it's possible to get the posted dates again. We used to.
Absolutely. Good point. Yeah. Thanks,
Yeah,
Brenda.
good. Because I like to attend those.
Yeah.
Thanks,
So,
Brenda.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All righty, so seeing none. Okay, Tom, thanks again. Appreciate it. I know we'll have another opportunity later on in the agenda to get in more engaged in some of the conversations and some of the highlights of your report. So we'll defer the rest of the discussion until that time. All righty, so we now move on to, I was going to say our most favorite committee, but Lawrence and others are on here. So Linda, I'm not going to say that, but I'll say it when Lawrence committee comes up as well. One of our favorite committees. So I'll ask Linda to set this up and provide us with a report on the Quality and Tenant Engagement Committee.
Boy, your diplomacy is amazing. And thank you, Tom, for that excellent presentation. And we do look forward to welcoming you back to the most important committee on this board, which is the Quality Tenant Engagement and Committee. And I do want to thank all of the other committees that do such great work. My presentation is very brief on this time. As you noted, Fareed, we have a very large agenda, and we've had actually a lot of presentations from this committee, but we did want to just give a quick summary of our last meeting because there was a lot of items that were covered that I know are really important to the board. Most importantly, so we met in March, and so we'll just do a highlight, and we expect to bring more back to future meetings. At our last meeting in March, we did actually have a review of our operational dashboard, presenting key metrics for the Housing Corporation, noting continued good results in areas such as vacancies, arrears, maintenance, and administrative requests. These were updated on the dashboard, and the dashboard itself has been updated quite frequently, and it's really great. It's a very good visual that actually allows us to do the work of the committee to actually see where we're making headway and where we have areas of concern. Arlene was heavily present on the agenda as usual, presenting on our communications, highlighting the work that has been undertaken to support tenants, staff, and different stakeholders in 23 and 24. There were some specific updates related to translation and interpretation, and I want to note that this has been something that the board actually highlighted as very important, noting the efforts to address the language and diversity in our communities. And we're going to continue to actually monitor that and make sure that that's a priority. Arlene then also provided an update on another area that's been important to the board, and that's around engagement and partnership work. She highlighted the increased capacity to support more tenant-led activities. Her update noted that there was 175 recurring community programs in 2023, a 48% increase over the last year. And she also highlighted the work to support tenant events, STAC, and tenant town halls. For 2024, several strategic priorities were highlighted, including the continued work on Community Connect, fostering new tenant volunteer relations, and we were noting as well an increase in the number of volunteers, which has increased from 73 to 400. The Community Activities Fund, another favorite for the board to monitor, continues to be supporting tenant events and equipment requests and working on programs and partnerships, including the partnership table, which is increasing partnerships and tenant prioritized community programs and new agreements. Going forward, the board can expect more updates from our committee on the strategic directives and the KPI dashboard, the quality improvement projects, the Community Activity Fund, and Community Connect, as well as our tenant engagement survey. So it was a very busy meeting, and we're very pleased that many members of the board actually do attend this committee as well and contribute in real time. Any comments or questions? Any of my members, Jim, Maureen, if you want to add anything, let me know.
No, thanks very much, Linda. I just want to add one little bit, but you've covered it by saying that we are going back to look at the details more at the next QTech meeting, because there were a lot of detailed questions that were raised. So
Great.
To
Thanks,
be continued.
Maureen. Thanks, Maureen. Thanks, Linda. As always, Brenda, you've got a question? Go ahead.
Yeah, just a quick one. From 73 to 400 volunteers, which is nice. Do we have enough activity for the 400 volunteers? We have to make sure we don't burn them out by not using them. You know, you get discouraged when you put your name on and say you're volunteer and then you don't feel you're being used. So I just want to make sure, are there activities for the 400 people to do and to contribute?
Do any of our team members want to contribute to that? Or Maureen, your thoughts?
Yeah, if I could. Good question, Brenda, and it's something that I do want to bring up. Put it on my list already for the next QTech meeting.
Okay.
I want to look into with more detail how that number came about.
Yeah.
Because
sure.
there was the general outroll of the community action funds with a very, very tiny intro to the Community Connect Plus. And I got the feeling that perhaps a lot of these volunteers step forward because they want to be part of a particular activity, like a dance or a meal or whatever.
Yeah.
But until we have a little bit of understanding of what the structure of these tenant circles will be, I don't know that number means a lot. Because somebody might volunteer to make egg salad sandwiches, and that's it. You never see them again. So I don't think we can put too much thought in that number.
Yeah, and there's different types of volunteers. I mean, there's lots of people who just want to help out at the Christmas dinner. Yeah. And they do a bang up job at the Christmas dinner, you know. So I'm not making any comment about the quality or distinction. I just think it's great. Obviously, there's interest and engagement. And our next task is how do we engage them in a very positive way so they feel part of it. And 400 is really just the beginning, because if you take all our buildings, I mean, how many buildings we got? We got
83.
83, that's right. I was going to say 82. 83. I mean, if you have at least 10 people per building, I mean, that's 800, you know. So it's not inconceivable that we wouldn't have a large volunteer base, which is good. And in time, it may mean we have to look for funding for a volunteer coordinator, which would be one of my suggestions. And their Trillium will fund that for 3 years, Trillium Foundation. So
thanks for that, Brendan. And maybe in the future, not that we want to put more work on, but perhaps we could think about some kind of a survey, because I think that any contribution is great actually when volunteers can actually contribute in the way they want And it would be great if we could actually get some pulse of how our volunteers are feeling that they're being engaged, and whether it's a meaningful one event that's really important to them or they're involved in something every day.
Yeah, and you can easily do that with a structured, tick off the box what you'd like to do. Someone might want to be the cleanup crew for every event that happens, that's equally fun. And, in terms of, working towards some sort of form of building governance or self-governance communities, right? That's just always the thing I'm pushing. It's not inconceivable that you wouldn't have many, many, many dozens of volunteers reflective of each building. So good work.
Okay, so
a lot of those questions will be answered at the implementation table.
Yes.
And as Arlene, I think, said, it's like building a plane and flying it at the same time.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got I've got Arlene, your hand is up, and I've got Jim. So Arlene, you want to go ahead, and then we'll ask Jim to make his comments.
Sure, thank you. Through the chair, just wanted to respond to the questions around the volunteerism, and I do agree very much with the comments that are made that people have to volunteer in a way that's meaningful to them. So we're just wrapping up our regional tenant volunteer meetings this week. We've done 3 of 4, as Tom mentioned earlier, and we're seeing some new faces. So some people want to work at the regional circle and get involved in things that they can affect policy changes or program changes, and then there are lots of people who are interested at the building level. Keeping them engaged, Brenda, to your point, is actually a really important piece. And people do put their hands up because they want to bring the pie, but they don't necessarily want to serve the pie, and they don't want to clean up after the pie, but everybody has a role to play. So we're also trying to develop a volunteer training program at 2 different levels for the ones that just want to be general volunteers, and then the ones that want to be like super connectors who want to do a whole lot of things. So I wanted to address to the board that we are taking the number of volunteers we have very seriously, and trying to put in place tools to be able to support them. And the implementation table that is run by tenants are providing us with the guidance we need in order to do that.
Thanks, Arlene. Jim, before I bring you in, I just want to acknowledge that I see Deputy Mayor Morley has joined us, so I want to acknowledge her presence. I'm not sure if Councillor Crisanti is on the line as well. Yes, Councillor Crisanti is here as well. Yeah. So we've got
yes,
both.
I just joined.
Thank you, sir. Welcome. Welcome to you, and welcome, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you.
Jim, go ahead.
I was just going to, we had our first gathering to decide how to spend our community funds, which being such a small building, we only get $500. So we voted to spend $300 on a Christmas dinner and $100 on crafts and arts and crafts supplies, and $100 would be discretionary, maybe to buy games with, because that was brought up in our town hall that people were interested in getting games to play in the community.
Thanks, Jim.
As for the rest of the buildings, I imagine people are going to be doing the same sort of thing, deciding what is important to them, what they want to do with the money.
Great, thank you. Brenda, is that a new hand or a legacy hand?
No, sorry, that's an old hand. Sorry.
Okay. Thanks, Jim. Linda, any concluding comments before we move on?
No, thank you so much for all the comments, and to the team that are actually supporting this work. It's really great to see the progress, and the committee is in a very positive place when the presentations come.
Yeah, and it's good to have people like Jim and Maureen on that committee as well. That perspective, I think, is valuable for us. All right, so that concludes that item for information. We're going to move on now to item number 10. And we have our Audit, Finance, and Risk Committee report. I'll hand it over to Lawrence. Lawrence, you'll set this up. I know that Vince, we've got quite a few items under this agenda, so we'll let you navigate that after Lawrence makes his comment. And Lawrence, I want to also appreciate the work that you're doing. This is the best Audit, Finance, and Risk Committee in the business. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Fareed. The Audit, Finance and Risk Committee met on April 4th. The auditors, KPMG, presented their audit findings report along with the 2023 draft audited financial statements. The committee recommended audited financial statements and the audit findings report for the board approval. The committee also recommended for the board approval of KPMG as the external auditors for the year 2024. Committee later reviewed changes to 2 procurement orders due to extension of agreements and recommended them for board approval. There was also a presentation on emergency management and emergency response planning by Grant and Brad. That concludes my report. Next, Vince, you can carry on.
Great, thank you. And through the chair, in front of you, there is 3 motions. The first motion, the first item is to approve of the 2024 external auditor and recommend that to the City of Toronto. And so in front of you, you will see the background information starting on page number 19.
Yeah, so just before we go there, Vince, I don't know if the committee, the directors have any comments or questions on the report from Lawrence before we move on to the resolutions.
Oh, Jim,
Jim, is that Jim, your hand is up. Is that a legacy hand or a new hand?
Okay.
All right. Okay, so if there are no questions, I can put the motion before the board. So may I ask someone to move the following? Be it resolved that the board of directors recommend that the City of Toronto appoint KPMG to be the Toronto Seniors Housing Corporation external auditor for the year ending December 31st, 2024, with remuneration to be set by the board of directors. May I have a motion,
Warren,
please?
so moved. Warren,
Thanks,
so
Warren.
moved.
May I have a seconder, please? I can't see the entire screen, so can you state your name if you're seconding?
Jim?
Thanks, Jim. So moved by Warren, seconded by Jim. All in favor? That is approved. We'll now move on to item number 10B, which is the procurement change orders that Lawrence referred to in his report. There is a motion, be it resolved that the board approve the following change orders with the cumulative change order for direct awards. Value exceeds 20% of the original commitment value of the contract. A, Toronto Community Housing Corporation, TSHC Service Delivery Agreement fee extension to February 2025 in the amount of $11,389,952. Item number B, I-Security, website maintenance and support services extension to December 31st, 2025 in the amount of $61,103. May I have a mover, please?
Warren, so moved.
Okay, Warren, thank you very much. May I have a seconder?
Lawrence.
Thanks, Lawrence. Moved by Warren, seconded by Lawrence. All in favor? That is approved. I'll move on to item number 10C, which is the approval of the 2023 audited financial statements report. Be it resolved that the board approve A, the 2023 TSHC audited financial statements and 2023 audited findings report in attachment 1 and 3 of this report. And item number B, and authorize the Chief Executive Officer to sign the management representation letter as tabled in attachment 2 of the report. May I have a mover?
Warren moves.
Moved by Warren, seconded by
Linda?
Seconded by Linda. All in favor? That is approved. So thanks, Lawrence, and thank you, Vince. I want to ask the committee members, you've gone through the report. We had a a good, healthy discussion at the subcommittee meeting, well presented by Lawrence and Vince and the team from KPMG. But I want to ask the board of directors whether you need an in-camera session with the auditors alone. If that is required, we can do an in-camera with the auditors. If not, we'll carry on. Okay. I don't see any requests, so we will move on. Okay. Alrighty, so I think we will now move into closed session. So I want to thank those of you who have joined us for the public session. Obviously, we will come back in the public realm after we've concluded our in-camera business, and you're welcome to stay in touch and tune back in. So item number 11, be it resolved that the board close part of the meeting to the public to give consideration to a report containing personal matters about an identifiable individual. May I have a mover and a seconder, please?
Warren
Lawrence.
moves.
Thanks. Moved by Warren, seconded by Lawrence. All in favor? That is approved. So we're now in closed session. I'll just give a few minutes or a few seconds to